my lovely friends, it's Margaret, and it's time to nerd out about my favorite reads of 2018. So I've taken 10 of my favorite books from the year and ranked them sort of, I don't know. The only real winner of this is book number 1, but like, I tried my best. All of these books are books that have stuck with me over the course of the last year, books that I haven't been able to stop thinking about, books that when I looked at my Goodreads I was like, yes, they still brought me joy just thinking about them. I'm just gonna get into it. If you're interested in how I rate books, it's kind of based on how good the book is written, how I feel about the book, the way it ends, yada yada yada. Up top I will link a card so that you can go watch that video should you feel like it. Also, I'm not gonna go into too much detail on most of these. For 7 of them, I already have full reviews, and for 2 of them I'm planning on making a review, so I'll just link to those in the description box. Before we get into it, if you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and also hit that subscribe button. I make videos 2 to 3 times a week about books and writing, and I would love to see your lovely face here on a regular basis. Number 10 on this list is My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jodi Meadows. This is about Jane Grey, who you might remember from Tudor history as the 9 Days Queen, because after 9 days she got beheaded. At least she was only on the throne for 9 days, and it ended with her being beheaded, but I'm not sure how much time passed between her being deposed by Mary I and her being beheaded. Who knows? I didn't pay that much attention to her all that much because sad story, don't really want to. So why did I pick this up? I don't know, but I'm so glad I did. This is the most hysterical book I have ever read. It just, I was cackling. This basically takes history and flips it on its head. This is a complete satire about this era and what was going on, and I love the fact that you have the authors addressing you, the reader. They address you during the narrative. There were just so many places where, like, obviously as modern readers, we understand that this was really screwed up, but they didn't know better in Tudor era. It was the funniest thing. Also, this girl ends up married to a dude that can turn into a horse. And there's a middle school Margaret that would have been absolutely thrilled to have a boy that could become a horse on command. Like, she probably would have taken better care of him as a horse than she would have as a person. It follows Jane, her cousin Edward, and Gifford, who ends up her poor husband who didn't want to be in any of the politics that his father got him involved in real history. Like, his dad just basically ruined his life. Parents ruining children's lives are just basically kind of the thing that happened back in the Tudor era. This is one of the ones that I do have a full review of. You can find it down in the description box below. This lovely book is the sole book on this list. They got 4 out of 5 stars, but I still loved it, and I still think about it constantly. Moving into the 5-star books, the next book is Take the Key and Lock Her Up by Ali Carter. Really, it's just the entire Embassy Row series because I absolutely adored this. I love Ali Carter's writing, and I don't know why it took me so long to pick this series up. Like, I read the first book when it first came out, and then I just kind of lost the next 2 books in the year-long wait that it takes. This is about Grace Blakely and the mystery surrounding her mother's murder. 3, 4, 5, several years ago, her mother died mysteriously in a fire. In the first book, she basically is returning to the city where her mother died, and she's trying to figure out how to escape these memories that she's been having, how to deal with the PTSD that she has from her mother's death, because she was there, she witnessed it, she almost didn't make it out alive. The twist at the end of the first book was just, like, phenomenal, and I don't think I saw it coming the first time. You knew something was fishy, but I didn't see it coming. This also has one of my favorite Ali Carter boys. I mean, they're all my favorite Ali Carter boys, but his name is Alexei, and he is wonderful. A little bit flawed, but he is wonderful. I love how Ali Carter does her main female protagonists. They are just always so smart, and they're smart in different ways. She has a spy smart girl, she has a thief smart girl in one of her series, and then she has Grace, who is an army brat smart. Like, she knows everything she knows is because she's an army brat, and she's a little bit mischievous and is always getting into trouble. And even though she no longer wants to get into trouble, she keeps getting dragged into it. Ali Carter is also really great about doing friendship dynamics, which I absolutely adored in these books. It was just so good. I loved all of Grace's friends. It was such a fantastic little mashup that she had there. They were also, like, witty, and they had great banter, and they got into fantastic trouble together. Ali Carter is just a perennial fave, and I love her. And if you have not read her books, you should. That's all there is to it. The next one is gonna get me roasted by a few people. It's A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I did not think I was leaving 2018 as ACOTAR trash. but apparently I am, because this book happened. This is the second book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. It's about Feyre, and basically Feyre kills a fairy, and because she killed the fairy and there's a treaty between the humans and the Fae, she has to give up her life to pay for her crime. So a fairy comes to collect her, but the way he defines giving up her life is that she just has to come and live with him in his court because it was one of his guards that she murdered, basically. And listen, I didn't think I was going to enjoy this series, especially not after the first book. I spent a very long time wondering why the first book was even necessary, considering the things I knew about this one and the one after it. Just didn't understand it. Now it makes perfect sense. I know Sarah J. Maas has her issues. I don't think I really need to go into them. Just Google it. I know there have been issues with her writing. I know that there are issues with her writing. It's definitely not the highest form, but it is entertaining. She had me gripped, especially in this book. Like, A Court of Thorns and Roses, but this one, like, I opened it, and after the first 100 pages of torture, with the trash person that I hate, with the fire of 1,000 burning suns, after that first 100 pages, I was much happier. And I started to be like, I just started thriving off of the angst that was happening in this book. I still remember how I felt finishing this book. I thought my life was going to fall apart because I didn't have the next book. That's how good the ending was. I just, Anyways, I can't really articulate this. Besides the angst, I really did like the romance. I feel like it was a great juxtaposition against the romance from the first book, which is not normally something I'm okay with. But again, I went into this with some forewarning. I know some people don't like it, and some people have issues with it. And my only advice to you is, you gotta get past, like, the halfway point. Because once Feyre becomes someone who is trustworthy in the situation she is, once she fully commits, and the people around her know that she's not gonna, like, betray them to other people who I won't name because they don't deserve to be named. Once that happens, like, everything improves. And you understand so much more. And one of these characters is a complete idiot and really, like, stubborn. Beautifully stubborn. And really should have just talked about their feelings. Should have just done that, but I thrive off of that. So obviously, like, this had everything in it that I needed to just adore it, and that surprised me, but I don't regret it. The next book you've probably heard some buzz about, and that is Pride by Ibiza Boy. I love this book. This is about Zuri Benitez, a young Afro-Latina girl living in Brooklyn, and her neighborhood is slowly being gentrified. A family moves into the mansion across the street from her, a family with two very attractive boys. Sparks fly, not necessarily the good kind. This is the best Pride and Prejudice retelling I have ever read. I don't know how anyone is going to top how cleverly she reworked the story of Pride and Prejudice. She calls it a Pride and Prejudice remix, which she really did. It just blew me away in places. Zuri is hard-headed, she is stubborn, and I understood that. I got it. But hey, she suffers from the same issue that the rest of us have, which is that she is stubborn. I was screaming at this in my car, just in joy, because it was so very clever. I don't want to get into it because then that will ruin the surprise for you. But there was a way she reworked one of the original Pride and Prejudice plots that I saw the path she could have taken. She twisted it around in a way that just, like, was so far beyond what I've taken the easy way. And she's like, why take the easy way when I can make this happen? She really did a great job of updating the characters, updating the situations. It was a fantastic book. You need to read it. This one also has a full review on my channel, which is linked below. Number 6 is Arch Enemies by Marissa Meyer. This is the closest we're getting to having a comic book on this list. I was very sad that I wasn't blown away by any comic books. There was potential. There was potential for there to be a graphic novel, but Dan Didio just kind of ruined that for me. Anyways, this is about Adrian and Nova. Adrian is the son of the two most prominent superheroes in Gatlin City. Nova is the niece of the most infamous anarchist. In the first book, we see Nova infiltrate the Renegades and get onto Adrian's team because she wants to spy on them, clearly, because the Anarchists and the Renegades are against each other. The Anarchists have been in hiding for the last, I don't know, most of Nova's life, and they want to get back in power because they severely disagree with how the Renegades are running things. Nova joins the team, gets into a whole bunch of trouble, and this picks up where that left off. The twist at the end of that book, though, the twist at the end of this book, though, holy crap, like, she just has such great twist endings at the end of these last two books, and if I had not finished this on the same day that I finished A Court of Mist and Fury and already been just like maxed out on the levels of I don't know what to do with my life that I probably wouldn't have known what to do with my life when I finished this book, because that ending. This series is just such a clever way to rework the superhero genre. I like that she's giving us new superheroes. I'm always looking for new superheroes. I love my faves, I love my staples. My life would not be the same without Batman or Superman or Wonder Woman or Catwoman. Like, would not be the same, but still at the same time, it's nice to see the tropes that we're used to being retold in a different way, which is one of the reasons that I really adored this series. And also there were like little Easter eggs that you could kind of see where she might have taken pieces of certain characters that we already know. Adrian's parents are basically Superman and Batman if he had a sense of humor. Listen, this was slow burn. This was angsty. This had superheroes. This had fantastic twists and great world building, and I just don't know what I'm going to do with my life until I get the next book. I don't. I do actually. I'm just going to keep reading books. This series does not yet have a review on my channel, but I am planning on doing one at some point, eventually, soon. Coming in at number 5 is Illuminate by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This series, like, what? This is about a incident that happens on this planet called Corinza 4. It's hard to explain because there are a whole lot of different moving pieces and then things get worse. But the initial incident of this book is that there are two kind of competing companies. You have the World United Trading Company and Baytek. The WUC has this illegal mining colony on Corinza 4, and Baytek decides that they want that colony, so they come and bomb the heck out of it. Obviously, since it's illegal, WUC is not going to, like, lodge a complaint against the UTA, I don't remember. Basically, the head honchos of this particular galactic conglomerate. I wanted to say Galactic Empire, but no, it's not quite that bad. This follows two characters who are breaking up literally when the planet starts to explode, and they get sent onto different ships, and so this is about them on those ships trying to survive long enough to get to the Heimdall, which is a jump station where everyone can kind of escape from Baytek. You're gonna notice that almost all of these involve angsty romance, because I love me some angsty romance. This is told as what is called a dossier style format, and I didn't think I would like this because it's like different transcripts and it's interviews that have been written out and all kinds of stuff like that. And I wasn't sure I would enjoy it, but I did. It comes together so well that you're just sitting there reading it going, how am I getting this much information from what is basically a script of just dialogue? How am I getting this much character and information from all of that? I loved it. It was amazing. It made my heart so happy. I love the world building in this. This is what I would call a soft sci-fi. So like as opposed to a hard sci-fi where they're like going into detail about ships and weapons and all of that and alien life forms, all of that. This doesn't have as much of that. This is just a story that happens to be set in space. So you encounter some of the ships and weapons and all of that, but if you're worried about being overwhelmed by them, you're not going to see that in this book. I never felt overwhelmed by the sci-fi elements. It's there, but it's very light. So maybe I should call these sci-fi light. That would probably be a better term. It just drew me in. About 100 pages, I got to a point where I could not put it down. I just had to know what happened next. I almost canceled hanging out with friends to continue reading this book, okay? That's how good it was. Alright? Coming in at number 4 is a book that I did not expect to love as much as I loved. Like, I mean, if I thought A Court of Mist and Fury was a reach, this was even further of a reach because it is kind of a mystery suspense, which is something I don't read a lot of. And that is Black Rabbit Hall by Ava Chase. I went into this knowing that I really like reading thrillers and I like reading suspense, and I like that kind of mystery whodunit, like trying to figure out what's happening from clues kind of thing. So I picked this up. This is a dual timeline story told about Amber and Lorna, two women who are living 3 decades apart. Amber is 16. She has just suffered a great loss. She and her family have kind of retreated to Black Rabbit Hall to get over what's happened to them, this tragedy that's happened in their family. Lorna is a young woman looking for somewhere to have her wedding, and this place she remembers going to with her mother when she was younger, and she's been looking for it ever since. She's always wanted to have her wedding here. I can't tell you too much more than that, other than that there is a lot of just, it's a mess. Like, the characters are a mess, not the story is a mess. The story just fits together so perfectly. It kept me on my toes. I'm one of those that I like to guess the endings, and I did guess to some extent the ending, but then there was an extra layer on top that just, it made my heart so happy. I was almost in tears at the end of this book, and I didn't expect to be. I have a full review on this one as well. I thought it was great. It's stuck with me all this time. I literally went out a week later and bought it after finishing it on audiobook. We've made it to the top 3 reads of my 2018, and so coming in at number 3 is Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. This is a retelling, a reimagining of history. This is about Jane McKean, who is a zombie hunter. Yes, you heard that right. A zombie hunter in post-Civil War America. Basically, the Civil War was interrupted by the dead rising and eating everyone. To deal with this fact, they kind of just put the Civil War on hold, and we're like, well, I guess we need to deal with this zombie plague. Jane is growing up in a school where basically young black women are taught to be attendants for wealthy white women. If you were black or Native American, you were shoved into one of these schools so that you could learn to defend white people. This was so good. Okay? I know not everyone loves Jane as a character, but I did. I thought she was a little messy. She's 17. She's gonna make mistakes. She's gonna think she knows it all, because everyone thinks they know it all at 17. Or most of us do. I know I did. I love the fact that she is good at what she does. She knows what she's doing. The difficulties in the story for her were not that she needed to learn how to fight the zombies. It was that people were hindering her from being as effective as she could have been fighting those zombies. I thought that was fantastic. It wasn't one of those stories where we end up with this clueless heroine who needs to learn how to be a badass. She just was already. I liked the love interest. He was awesome. I also really liked the characters that she introduced. There's one, Catherine is fantastic. I hated her at first, like you kind of were supposed to, but the nice thing is Justina Ireland takes that trope and kind of just turns it on its head, and so you as the reader are also learning more about this character and learning to appreciate this character more at the same time that Jane kind of is. There is also a full review of this one. I loved it. I cannot wait for 2020 when the next book will come out, because that ending just, it needed more Justina. Speaking of badass heroines who are already badass, the next book, the number 2 spot on this list. No one is, some of you might be surprised. You might have thought it was going to be number 1, considering how much I've been going on about the sequel, but it's not. The number 2 spot on this list was taken by The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is about Jude Duarte. When she was 7, a fairy came, murdered her parents, and kidnapped her and her sisters, and brought them to his household to raise them as his own. So she spent the last 9 or 10 years in Fairy, which is a horrible place for humans, let alone human children. She has grown up basically powerless, and so Jude wants power. She wants to be in a position where no one can hurt her, and to do that she decides she wants to become a knight in the king's court, and from there she just gets embroiled in court politics, and it's a mess. She ends up having to make some hard choices. She ends up having to make some choices she never thought she would make. Listen, y'all, I cannot tell you how much I love this book. I just can't. There are no words. There is a full review where I try. Things I loved about this book. I love the world building. Again, it had superior world building. It had the traditional fairy stuff, but at the same time, it was amped up to a completely different notch. It has great characters, especially the two main, your 2 leads, Jude and Cardan. I just love them. Listen, you're gonna hate Cardan at first. You're supposed to hate Cardan. You're supposed to love to hate Cardan. You were supposed to hate Cardan so much, you love him. That's how this series is supposed to work. That's how this book is supposed to work. He is awful. But Jude's a little awful herself, so they kind of, end up clashing, and it was fantastic. Again, angsty romance. They're a mess. They are just a completely dysfunctional and a wreck. And 9 times out of 10, I would be like, actually no, probably 99 times out of 100, I would be like, no, this is no, this is exactly the wrong kind of mess and the kind of mess you should not be. But the way Holly writes it and the way she's been working it in the second book, it works for me for some reason. It just, I mean, I love me some enemies to lovers. I don't know that it's my favorite trope. But when you have two people that are slightly antagonistic, at least slightly antagonistic, this is more than slightly, towards each other, who are put in situations where it's kind of like, ooh, will they, won't they? Is there a thing here? Is there not? When you have those situations, I like it. I like two people starting out hating each other and then ending up having to work together, and through working together, getting mutual respect, and through the mutual respect, coming to care for each other. We haven't gotten to those last two stages just yet. They just end up having to work together in this book to not, die. And it was great. I don't even know if I'm making sense about this book, okay, guys? It's just great. You should read it. The characters are fantastic. The story is fantastic. You will just, even if you hate them, you're gonna be reading to figure out what crazy thing they are going to be doing next. It's amazing. The number one spot on this list is not taken by one book, but two, because I just couldn't decide which of the two books were my favorite. Please don't ask me to choose. I mean, if I had to choose, it would be the second one, because the second one has the best angsty romance moments, and I just live for that. Have we figured, you knew that. I've said it 14 times. I read this in January, and it has not changed, if that tells you anything about how much I love these books. January has not changed since I finished this. It is the Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. Okay, guys, listen. How do I tell you how much I love this series? How do I tell you how much I love these books? I finished this at the end of January. I started reading this again in March, okay? That's how much I try not to do that. I try not to, but I did anyways. I broke a rule. I try to only read books once a year, but I broke the rule because this series just rocked my world. Why did it rock my world? Let me get into that. So this is about Kaz Brekker and this kind of gang of misfits that he puts together because there's this impossible heist that they want him to pull off. There is a key figure living in a foreign court that is supposed to be impenetrable. And so Kaz takes this job because basically he's going to get a heck of a ton of money, and he likes the idea of doing something that's impossible. That's Kaz Brekker. It's impossible? Here, watch me do it. Of course, he's smart and he doesn't try to do it alone, unlike some people we could talk about. He is smart. He doesn't try to do it alone. He has a gang of 5 others that come with him to this other country, and they are going to help him break in. It's told in 6 perspectives. You get a perspective from each one of them. And it's so beautiful. It's so masterful. You are in Ketterdam, which is where they live. You are in this world. You are a part of this world. You understand it. You can see it. You can smell it. You can understand the characters. You can hear them talking in your head. Part of that might be because I've listened to the audiobook, but who cares? Who knows? I don't know. I can't talk. This has one of my new favorite characters. Her name is Inej. She is the most deadly cinnamon roll you will ever meet, read about, experience in your life. I love her. If you don't love her, you're wrong. And so I just, I love this book so much. But seriously, she does such a great job with the world. She does such a great job with the characters. She does such a good job with the banter. Oh, the banter. Yes, it's amazing. The romances in this book are amazing, even if one of them hurt my heart so much. I mean, not in this book. We're not going to talk about that, though. I still haven't forgiven Leigh for that. Anyways, so you have been hearing about this book on BookTube. There is a hype around this book on BookTube for a good reason. I know maybe 3 people who don't like it. Maybe 3 people. And one of those people, I think, actually ended up liking it once they'd read Crooked Kingdom. Because everything just comes together so beautifully in this series. You can really see her getting comfortable in this world that she created with the Grisha trilogy. You don't necessarily need to read the Grisha trilogy before you read this one. I would read the Grisha trilogy first, though, if you are interested in reading the Grisha trilogy. Just because it's very different. Tonally, writing-wise, it's very different. This This feels like something that you would find sitting next to, like, Brandon Sanderson or Victoria Schwab. The Shadow and Bone trilogy is very typically YA fantasy. This takes it up a notch. I enjoyed both of them, but I enjoyed this one more, and simply for the fact that we do see some of the characters in the Grisha trilogy, and because I was so jarred by the difference between the two different series, I would have liked to have actually read the Shadow and Bone trilogy, I guess it is, first. I just call it the Grisha trilogy, because who wants to say Shadow and Bone when you can just say Grisha? Who does? That's it, guys. Those are all 10 of my favorite reads of 2018. We are done. I don't know how long this video is going to be. Question of the day is, what was your favorite read of 2018? The book that knocked your socks off, the book that left you gasping, the book that had you falling out of bed to get to the next book. What book is that? Let me know down in the comments. Let me know if I should read it. Don't forget to check out the description box if you wanted more information on any of these books. I will have Goodreads linked. I will have my reviews linked. Happy reading, and thank you so much for watching. If you want more of me, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. Those are both at the word nerd with a 3 in nerd instead of the E. That is it for now, my friends. I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!